Hello, everyone. Welcome to this 11th episode or 11th session, 11th webinar of the series of design and development of massive open online courses. I am Sanjay Mishra from the Commonwealth of Learning with my co-host, Professor Fong Sung Phuc from University of Malaysia, Sabah. We have two esteemed guests today. Professor Kurt Bonk from the Indiana University at Bloomington and Dr. Meena Ju from Wayne State University. Welcome to both of you. It's my pleasure, colleagues, to introduce two esteemed guests today. I know you are also important participants of this webinar and you are from all over the world. But I must first thank two of my guests today who have kindly agreed to be with us to share their experience, their research on massive open online courses. And the objective of this that we thought to include is to give you a perspective about researching issues around MOOCs. Because I know most of you are interested in design and development issues. But we thought that it's important to bring in the issues related to research around this, because as teachers, most of us are interested in research. And we thought no other than Professor Kurt Bonk and Dr. Meena Ju would suit this kind of a topic because they have produced tons of work in this area. Professor Kurt Bonk is an innovator actually. He has been doing works on online learning and open educational resources, open education for a quite long time. His background is essentially he started as a corporate controller or CPA, but he is a top-rated educational psychologist and instructional technologist focusing on the business education, psychology, and technology at Indiana University, and teaching particularly psychology and technology courses. I have been following him since quite a long time. And those of you who are more interested to know about his work, I would suggest to definitely look at his website, kurtbonk.com, and of course his blog on Traveling Ad Man. But I will not be doing the full introduction if I don't talk about his books, particularly the first book that I read was on blended learning. Then came The World is Open. It gave us a different framework of looking at open education world. Then there are free books like Take Variety to help us design motivating online courses. I'm specifying on this particularly to all of you because there were lots of questions in previous sessions about how to engage and motivate our learners. This is the book for all of you to grab. Of course, he also edited some excellent books on MOOCs and open education that I had the fortune of contributing to. So, Professor Kurt Bonk, you will listen to him in a short while. With Professor Kurt Bonk, we have Dr. Meena Ju, who is assistant professor in the Learning Design and Technology program at the College of Education, Wayne State University, USA. She received her doctoral degree on instructional systems technology at Indiana University. Interestingly, her master's degree was also in educational technology at Beijing Normal University. And today, particularly, the presentation will cover some of her research activities. Welcome, Dr. Meena Ju. Welcome, Professor Kurt Bonk. With that, Professor Fong, would you like to have few words before we go to the protocol?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Sanjaya. And a very great greetings to Professor Curtis Bong, to Dr. Mena, and to all our fellow colleagues around the world, especially from UMS, University of Malaysia Sabah. It is still the Raya season, the Eid Mubarak season. Okay, so I know Professor Curtis Bong long time ago when I went to Indiana University at Bloomington for my first sabbatical. And I can tell you that this man, he is a rich man. With respect to his scholarly work, he's so rich and he don't keep to himself. He shared. So if there's one word that I can say of Kurt Bong, he is a man who is so sharing. He shared. So get ready today for a time where he will be just sharing and disseminating his riches to us. Okay, thank you so much, Kurt Bong.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. We're very humbled and very delighted to be here with you all. It's a lovely day in Bloomington, Indiana right now. I've run 68 days in a row outside just to be able to go outside during COVID-19. Otherwise, we have to stay indoors. Even our commencement ceremonies are held in virtual spaces. So I thought this was a wonderful idea. Didn't you, Mena, to have a chance to talk to people around the world?
Through Zoom.
Through Zoom.
These days, yeah.
So I've already shared my book link with all of you. You can download it for free. And there's a second book that also has 100 activities, but it's not free. And so don't get that book. Just get the free one. But they go hand in hand. Tech Variety and R2D2, Empowering Online Learning. Anyways, you don't need them. So let's go to sharing screens. Again, coming from Bloomington. Mena's coming from Detroit, where they've had a big COVID outbreak, right, Mena?
Yeah, it's a little bit serious here.
Very serious. And so here's beginning of our talk here. We titled it, actually they titled it for us, Research Issues and Findings of MOOCs, Learning to Better Design Practices. And so while we've done probably almost 10 studies on MOOCs, we're gonna look at 2 to 3 of them and actually try and operationalize them, give you some things that you can do. It's not just gonna be about research per se. This is probably gonna be heavy on the practice at the end. So if you stick around for the last 10 minutes of our talk, you'll get a lot of ideas of what you can do. And maybe so at the beginning as well, we'll see. But again, thank you, Sanjaya. Thank you, Fong. I've known both of you for quite a long time for inviting us into this wonderful webinar series. I guess it's the last one before the closing. So we're almost at the end. I hope we can keep people awake through the last part of this and get their certificates or whatever they get at the end for showing up. But this was planned on the fly. It came rather late. And so I want to thank you. Mena, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's a great honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to have more communication with all of you later.
So our emails are available. We're going to make our papers available. I'm going to send a bunch of links right after this to Sanjaya, who'll share them all with you. We're going to go through 3 studies, as I said, on design considerations and challenges, self-directed learning, and personalization. But first is the news. We got to look at the news first. Wait a minute. How many of you have taken a MOOC? Raise your hands, put your smiley faces on. Mena, you raised your hand. How many MOOCs have you had?
I think I have explored like more than 30 MOOC courses.
30 MOOCs. 30 MOOCs. And how many have you finished?
I didn't count.
So yeah, a lot of MOOCs. And so, in fact, you've taken that MOOC on happiness that had 2 million people in it, I think. Some people are frustrated with MOOCs. Some people are happy with MOOCs. There's also a Zoom boom happening all around the world because everyone's in Zoom like right now. Well, let's look at that data and what it says. EDX, one of the big providers of MOOCs from MIT, has had 80 million learners since they started about 7 or 8 years ago. Almost 6,000 instructors, 196 countries. There's a huge data here, huge impact just from EDX, but EDX is not the only one who's offering MOOCs. And this data is December 16th on my birthday, by the way. You can all get me a birthday gift next year and send it to Bloomington. No, don't. So the next set of data comes from Udemy. Udemy's out of San Francisco, and they've seen a surge, a huge growth of people participating from Canada, from Mexico, Brazil, Australia, India, Italy, you name it, and you got the numbers there. They're taking courses in piano, in playing guitar, but also in financial analysis, in Excel, in keyboarding, in stock trading, all sorts of serious topics as well. You know, this is amazing, the growth that you just Udemy, and Udemy lets you put a MOOC up. You could create one on stress management, which is growing, on decision-making, virtual teaming, technical drawing, chatbots, creativity. The growth is different in different countries. In Spain, they're playing the piano. In Italy, they're learning to play the guitar. And in India, where Sanjay is from, they're a little more serious in India. They get business fundamentals and communication skills. And so different things in different countries. But you see the 425% increase in learners, in participants, 55% increase in instructors, and 80% in government and business. So this is huge. You know, some are taking IT skill courses, some health and fitness, which makes sense during the coronavirus. They want to be fit. Office productivity. Even my own students are creating MOOCs in Udemy. And one of my students created it in a survey tool called Qualtrics. Some people out there are taking so many MOOCs, they are joining clubs where they take more than 100. Like my friend Jim Nagaya from Nigeria. He has taken I think he told me 700 MOOCs, of which he passed 200 or 300 of them and got certificates. You have to be a self-directed learner, wouldn't you say, Maina? To get,
Yes.
very much so. And so Maina and I have been looking at self-directed learning, right? And so, new data. December 17th, 2019. Online degrees slow down. Go to Class Central and you can get this data. Just type Class Central in a Google search and you'll find this data. But I mean, are they really slowing down?
Actually, no. If you click the next slide,
okay,
and then you can see there are more than 100 million students enrolled in the MOOC courses, and they were offered by more than 900 universities.
And over 13,000 some courses and 800 credentials, 50 different degrees that you could take. And so, can we visualize that, Maina?
Yeah, if you hit the next slide, you can see the visual, like during these years, the number of MOOCs grows very fast.
In just 8 years, the growth of MOOCs has taken off, you can see there. And the programs, they're also growing, as you can see. Coursera, EDX, FutureLearn, they've grown the programs from 2017 to 2018. And credentials, micro-credentials, nano degrees, and so forth and so on. Now, the New York Times, Maina, yesterday they had an article. Everyone's sharing this New York Times article. Why did they share this article in the New York Times?
Oh, in this article, it said like Coursera added like 10 million new users just from mid-March to May, 2 months.
A huge growth at Coursera alone. People are, and they're on my television late at night. If I watch any I try not to, but Coursera has all these ads in the United States to take courses from University of Illinois or Michigan or wherever. So many courses being offered that now we have Cyber Week, Cyber Monday after Black Friday, Thanksgiving. We have discount coupons to take a MOOC in the summer or in the winter or all times of the year. So we're going to start and look at study number 1 here on MOOC design considerations and challenges. That was published in December 2018, so a little over a year ago. It's not that old, about a year and a half ago. We'll send this to you. And we're going to look at the instructor side, because we've got a database of over 3,000 MOOC instructors. We're able to tap into that for studies on personalization, cultural sensitivity, motivation, professional development, and instructional design. The instructional design is this study. Most people are studying, what is it, students, right, Mena? And they're studying what else?
Students' motivation, engagement, etc., and instructional design.
And they're looking at impact, they're looking at context, but they're not looking at the instructor. And so we're trying to look at the instructional design side set up by an instructor. It's one of the main things. So this study will provide suggestions for future MOOC instructors. In fact, we have one study on Indonesian MOOCs and Malaysian MOOCs that we'll send to Sanjay as well. And the instructional designers and their design considerations and their design challenges. So what are those design challenges when they create a MOOC? How do they perceive the challenges in front of them? What are the considerations and what are the challenges? And then how do they address those challenges? So, Mena will walk you through pieces of the study now.
Okay, does it work? So what we did is that we used the sequential mixed method design. We collected quantitative data first, and then after data analysis of the quantitative data, we collected qualitative data and analyzed them. Next, please. So for quantitative data, we use a survey. For the qualitative data, we use a semi-structured interview and course review. So we conducted course review both before interview and after the interview with the 12 interviewees. Next, please. So this table shows the demographic information of the 12 interviewees. They are from different countries like the US, UK, and also they have different subject background like education, chemistry, and math, etc. To increase the validity and reliability of this study, for each research question, we use at least 2 data collection and analysis methods. For quantitative data, we use descriptive statistics. For qualitative data, we use content analysis to analyze the data.
And so you see here, how many MOOCs have they designed in the past? One, typically one, just one. So these were not savvy people with MOOCs and probably not with online learning. Probably what happened is that they got their arm twisted behind their back and said, could you please offer a MOOC? And they said, oh, maybe. Or maybe they got a lot of support. Many people get a lot of production support, taking videos and such. 15 of them had 4 or more MOOCs, but that's not the norm. Norm, they're teaching 1 MOOC. So it'd be really interesting to do a study of people who have taught 6 or 7 or 8 MOOCs. You can see the wide variation in terms of how large these MOOCs were. In the past, the average size of a MOOC started, what was it, 40,000, Mena?
Yeah, and then currently in general it's 8,000. That's
8,000.
Yeah.
So Jordan had a study early on in 2014 or 15, 40,000, and Andrew Ho had one more recently from Harvard, 8,000 is the average MOOC. And in Malaysia, they're much smaller.
So what we found from this study, so what are the primary design considerations? So the learning objectives is the first or the that MOOC instructor consider most, and also how to assess students' learning. Another issue is the logistics, so how much time they have to design the MOOC courses. And the fourth primary consideration is how to engage learners, which are also the like all the educators who are interested in currently. Next, please. So as you can see in this figure, so a majority of them consider learning objectives assessment. However, few of them consider like software resources or tools for communication. So kind of technology support is not the main consideration for the instructors.
And only about a third considered cultural sensitivity issues, which we have another paper in review on, or learning theory behind. It was really the objectives and assessment and time.
So one instructor from the US mentioned like, in terms of engaging learners, he sent out a message each week to welcome students and also have questions in the video to engage learners. So what kind of challenges do instructors perceive when designing MOOC courses? So the first thing is the assessment. So they at least think that how to assess learners in the large courses is really challenging. And the second thing is engaging learners, and also the time limitation regarding designing and develop the MOOC courses. As you can see in this figure, so assessment, engaging learners, and also time limitation. However, technology support or how to force students team collaboration, they don't think these are challenges for them.
And you can see some of the other things, tracking student progress, recording videos, not as much of a concern.
So one instructor said, it took a lot of time, and also he didn't get a course release for doing this.
He's crazy if he didn't get a course release or at least get some help, because he's just teaching, let's just add 8,000 students to your course load.
So how did it address these challenges? A majority of them, they explored other MOOC examples in the Coursera or edX. Also, they seek help from the platform or colleagues or their own institutions.
I'm wondering how many of you took my MOOC back in 2012 that had about 4,000 people, Blackboard's first MOOC on how to teach online. Anyways, you see data science here, Python programming, machine learning. Those classes are very popular. The top 10 MOOC in the world is Chuck Severance's MOOC from Michigan, Python programming, or Python for everybody.
So this figure shows how they addressed their challenges, as we mentioned before. However, several of them try to address the challenges through attending conferences or reading news.
So they're not doing the typical things. And we have another study that's just published in Distance Education on the professional development of MOOC instructors. And I can send that to Sanjay as well. They're browsing. They're talking to colleagues. They're looking for examples. And so today we'll provide examples. You don't have to take a full-blown course. We'll just look at examples.
And so one MOOC instructor from the US mentioned that when I started making the MOOC, I could see MOOCs that other people had made. So he explored other MOOCs before he designed his own MOOC course. So in this study, we found that the time limitation is the primary logistic considerations and also the challenges. However, the primary design considerations and challenges are the pedagogic factors, how to engage learners, and also how to assess students' learning and engage students' learning in the MOOC courses.
And so now we'll move on to study number 2, which is the bigger study, which basically is Mana's dissertation project, which she defended a year ago, and immediately had a few articles published from it. And we'll look at MOOC instructional design considerations that facilitate self-directed learning. How do you facilitate self-directed learning? Well, my friend Randy Garrison in Calgary, at the University of Calgary, has designed a framework or a model looking at dimensions of self-directed learning that tie in real well educational psychology with instructional psychology, I guess. And so we look at motivation, self-monitoring, and self-management. Those are the 3 variables that all impact on self-directed learning, according to Randy Garrison's model. And this has been widely used. And so we have to look at what the research says in terms of MOOCs and non-MOOC environments. Well, in order to succeed at MOOCs, according to Littlejohn and Milligan and others, you need to have self-directed learning skills. There needs to be personal interaction with instructors or with peers. Self-directedness of a learner may vary in different learning environments. It's not an end-all and be-all. It's not a one number that you can enter into every different kind of environment. Some learners could be more self-directed in a MOOC and less self-directed in a face-to-face class, for instance. So instructional design, according to Randy Garrison and Marty Cleveland Innes, who was with Sanjay and I recently in Scotland for our conference, they said instructional design can influence the success one has in that environment, the engagement one's going to So the engagement one has is dependent on instructional design. But few studies have looked at it. So there was a gap, there was an opening. Especially lacking was a look from the instructor point of view, their lens as the instructor. So like Commonwealth of Learning in offering MOOCs on MOOCs, really in some ways the purpose of the study was to understand how to design a MOOC to be effective. The purpose is to inform instructors and instructional designers and also the providers of the MOOCs about current practices, best practices potentially in designing and facilitating MOOCs. Again, the questions were three. How do the instructors perceive the learners or participants' ability to self-direct their learning? How do they look at them? Do they say, oh, I have to control everything, or can I give them some control? And how do those instructors then perceive their ability to facilitate in that environment, in the MOOC environment? Can they foster self-directed learning? And we had some positive results in number 2. Wouldn't you say, Mena? I think that was the positive thing.
Yeah.
So number 3 is how do the instructors design and deliver the MOOCs to facilitate SDL skills? Do they rely on certain technologies and technology features and functions? Does it support learners in different ways? You know, so we asked something about the technology tools as well. Again, Mena will walk us through the study design.
So in order to address these questions, so we used the explanatory sequential mixed method design. We first conducted pilot study, pilot interview with 4 instructors to develop the survey, and then we did pilot survey with 48 instructors. After that, we sent a survey to get response from 198 MOOC instructors, and also we interviewed and reviewed 20 MOOC instructors courses.
And so one thing that Mena did is she interviewed those 4 and surveyed 48. That study's published, even though, you know, so you can take a look at that particular study. That's in the Journal of International Journal of Self-Directed Learning. And again, that's a free and open access journal. I'll send that to Sanjaya. In her first month at Wayne State, Mena had 6 different things getting published or ready to be published and whatnot.
Yeah, I really appreciate Dr. Brown's support on that. So as we mentioned that we use survey to collect the quantitative data and interview and MOOC review. So the next slide, Dr. Brown. Next slide, please. So this table shows the demographic information of the 22 MOOC instructors. So they are from different countries from North America, Australia, and European countries. And they teach different courses like social science, medicine, and health. The courses were provided in different platforms like Blackboard, Future Learn, Coursera, etc. So this is the detailed information of the MOOC instructors. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and by the way, Mena, we only asked her to do like 15 or 20, she did 22 interviews. Some of those people, as you see in the upper right, I without T, that means instructor without a teaching assistant. Those were the crazy people that were teaching without any help. So there's a lot of interesting, if you look at this thing long enough, there's a lot of interesting things there, but we'll move on.
So to increase the trustworthiness of this study, we used at least 2 data sources for each research question. For quantitative data, we conducted descriptive statistics. For qualitative data, we used content analysis through NVivo. So the MOOC, their subject background including the social science, medicine, and health, and some of them are from math or engineering.
And you see medicine high in all our studies. Isn't that right, Mena?
Yes.
Seems like medicine is doing a lot of MOOCs. Not often language and literacy. Business somewhat high, social science, yes. It changes in all our studies. It changes, but computer science is generally high.
Yeah, so for research question 1 regarding instructors' perceptions of student self-directed learning abilities or their, so MOOC instructors think that self-directed learning is a set of skills that can be educated or the personal attributes that can be changed. So seldom of them think that it can never be changed. Emma, one of the instructors, said she thought the student self-directed learning means that students can manage their time and coursework and fit the course into their own schedule and lives. In terms of their perceptions of facilitating the self-directed learning, so MOOC instructors, a majority of them think that they can intentionally or unintentionally create a learning environment to help students self-directed learning.
So that's the positive finding there.
Yeah.
They say, yeah, we can do it. We can do it, you know? So it's no problem. You may disagree, but these instructors said yes.
So actually, she emphasized both the importance of both instructors' facilitation and student self-directed learning skills. So she said students, they have their own self-directed learning skills, but instructor can scaffold the learning experiences to help them. So research question 3 is also one of the most important one, which shows us the specific strategies that are used to help students self-directed learning. The first category is the motivation. So for the interim motivation, so at the beginning of the course, MOOC instructors help students to identify their learning needs or their learning goals, and also help them to get a sense of achievement. To help them to maintain the course, they motivated students through interactive instructions or diverse or optional learning materials and immediate feedback, etc. Learning community is one of the strategies that he used. For example, one MOOC instructor from Australia, he asked a student to use this say hi to each other through this interactive map. And also he created a Facebook page. Yeah.
Which is what I did when I offered a MOOC. We had people put, you know, where they were coming from during our synchronous session we had on a map on there. And I'm curious, what other countries, if you put down the chat window besides Malaysia, where else are people coming from today? I hope we have at least 10 different countries in this session. So we'll see. Sanjay, I can count up how many different countries that we have in here. Okay, on to the next slide. That's one way to build community. Just sharing where you're from, sharing interests, having social icebreakers of sorts. And that free book you can download has 10 examples of social icebreakers in it. It has 100 activities that you can use that are low risk, low cost, low time.
So the second primary element for to facilitate student self-directed learning is to help them with their self-monitoring process. To help students' cognitive process, the MOOC instructors, they provided quizzes for self-assessment and also provide tutorial on technology use like learning advices, etc. To help student metacognitive process, they encourage students to reflect their learning and think critically by providing reflection questions and building learning community. And also they provided external feedback. So this is an example of the self-assessment. So they provided the self-assessed quizzes and then student can get immediate feedback after they took the quiz. And this example how they help students to self-reflect their learning process by providing progress indicators.
So each of these graphics that we're showing you here are things that you can incorporate in your own MOOC, whether it is the self-check assignments, which we'll come back to, or progress indicators.
And also they provided peer assessment methods, like you have to review your peers' assessment before you can get feedback from your peer.
And so having peers assess, not just instructors, instructor would die teaching 8,000 and grading all the work. Some have system feedback built in, computer-based feedback. Some have self-feedback. Some have peer feedback.
So the third primary strategy that they use to facilitate student self-directed learning is to help them to self-management with self-management. So first they help students, like we mentioned before, set their learning goals, and also with time management, they provide time frame or progress indicators and provide short learning units, videos, and also provide flexible learning resources to help them to manage the resource and support. So this is example of the time estimates they provided to students. So this is a 4-week course. So how many minutes you will take to finish one video or readings. Also, the technology plays an important role to help students self-directed learning. So the one is the synchronous communication technologies that they use in their course. So Google Hangout and YouTube Live, they use them to hold the synchronous session to address students' questions. Another way is using asynchronous communication technology. The most common one is discussion forum in each course. And also multimedia like videos, graphics were used in their courses and feedback technologies. So from this study, we found that MOOC instructors thought the self-directed learning can be changed, and also they can help and facilitate student self-directed learning. The specific strategies including how to motivate students, help them with their self-monitoring process and self-management, and also the technology plays a very important role to facilitate student self-directed learning.
So SDL can be changed. I'm sorry, Manny, you're going to say?
Yeah, so they have some expectations regarding using technology like adaptive learning system and artificial intelligence to help them to support student self-directed learning.
For the future. And we'll talk about that right at the end, the future. Lots of information on the future, but I lie. And so implications for instructors, instructional designers, build that learning community somehow, inspire intrinsically as well as extrinsically. It's both, they're doing both. Find ways to personalize learning. The third study, we'll talk about that and how to create that personalization in that environment and provide some analytics that they can self-assess whether they're doing well enough in the course and progressing at the speed that they anticipated that they will.
So based on this research, we summarize the top 10 strategies to facilitate student self-directed learning in MOOCs.
And these things come right out of her dissertation and I think are very practical. And we're sitting at a conference in Toronto in April of last year and at the AERA conference, and we had all these slides up, but this was the one slide everybody wanted. They wanted to know how to facilitate self-directed learning skills. What are the strategies? What are the specifics? And so I told man, we need to write a paper on that. And this is the one thing. And I was interviewed for a podcast show recently, and it's the same thing. This is the one slide that they wanted to come back to and talk about. So Mano will walk you through these 10, and then I'm going to walk you through 10 more. And then we're going to be near the end at that point.
So I will briefly talk about these 10 top strategies. So first is helping students set their learning goals. For example, one instructor said at the first page of the course, he asked why students take this course so that students can be clear with their learning goals at the beginning. Next, please. The second, as we discussed before, building learning community is very important. Like Joshua from the UK mentioned, so we use a lot of resources that already exist, and then we use a MOOC discussion board to engage students in the learning community.
When she says Joshua, keep in mind that's the instructor. It's not a student, that's the instructor view.
Instructor, yeah.
We have another study of student view coming in, and actually it's more quantitative. I think it's in the British Journal of Educational Technology. It just came out. So it's hard keeping track of all of them, but again, we're going to share as many as we can.
And the third and fourth are offering immediate feedback and embedding quizzes for self-assessment, like we mentioned before. So they have a quiz in the middle of the video, and then once student takes the quiz, then they can get immediate feedback from the system. And also provide progress indicators to help students monitor their learning process.
Which she's had in study number 2. You saw this already, but we're just recapping a little bit.
And providing reflection questions like we mentioned before.
And this is something that I saw in some earlier studies. Well, actually in my handbook of blended learning, which Sanjaya mentioned, we had a chapter from Cisco Systems, and they talked about the large classes that they had there, and they were offering constant reflection questions at the end of big modules.
The seventh strategy is to design a short learning unit. So in general, in online learning, students will feel tired or boring if they watch longer videos. So the video usually lasts 5 to 8 minutes to engage learners in the process. And another strategy is to provide flexible timelines. So if you haven't finished this course, and then they will ask you whether you want to reset your timeline. And also highlight the estimated time frame for videos or quizzes or even readings, as it shows here. Last but not least, so make the available optional learning materials. Like in this course, the professor provided the basic reading materials, and advanced students can choose either one to read.
And so I'm going to go through 10 more such strategies, including things that my students have stumbled upon this semester or in the spring in their class. Some were exploring this World Health Organization MOOC on COVID-19 at Open WHO, World Health Organization, Infection Prevention and Control. What they found was a very structured learning environment with clearly stated objectives, estimations on time to completion of each module, the number of modules, the title of the course, the syllabus, and so forth. So very structured in terms of the visuals, the graphics that brought all the material together. They matched up any narration or audio files with what's displayed on the screen. Similar to Richard Mayer's Learning Principles, his multimedia book that he has out there. He has certain principles for effective use of multimedia. You might want to take a look at M-A-Y-E-R, Richard Mayer. So they abided by that in this particular course. They also then, upon completion of the MOOC, had a certificate or a goal that learners move towards. Humans are goal-driven creatures. We're very structured as well. We want these set of determinants of where to go. We want some sense of controlling our own destiny. We want a sense of control over it, but we also want to know what we're going to get in the end. Okay. We also then looked at a MOOC on the science of well-being. That's the largest MOOC, I think, maybe in the world, with millions of learners, 2 million some. And there are certain things that the instructor and Mena signed up for this MOOC, right, Mena? And yes. How was it? How was this? You want to recommend it to people?
Very engaging. Yeah, especially during this pandemic time, it's good to do.
Why is it good?
It may make you feel happy.
So if you want to feel happy, take this MOOC on feeling happy. The most popular course at Harvard, by the way, is a course on happiness. The most popular MOOC is a course on happiness. Everyone wants to be happy, And that's why I hang around Sanjay and Fong all the time, because they're happy guys. And Mena's happy too. So you can deal enough with your life with people who are not happy. So one thing that she did is she provided an overview of the week, just like the other instructors. What do they have to read? What do they have to watch? Some structure being presented within this. So the learners see the structure and then they're able to work through it. Now, I learned through television and correspondence courses before grad school, and I needed some structure from the outside that was provided by the guidebooks, in effect. Today, we can offer these guides online. You might have lectures that are captured, and then you have the caption that's displayed. So there's Lori Santos and her lecture, but she also has the transcript available. If you're hearing impaired, there's a transcript available for you. And so they might be captured that way. Another thing, they might have quick checks on if you're not on your knowledge and how much you learned. So pop-up questions for a quick check on the learner. Just, hey, if you answer correct, you feel pretty confident. I'm self-efficacious as a learner. My self-efficacy is high because I keep getting them all right, okay? And each one. I feel good every time I hear the bell ring. Okay. Providing learners with self-selection options, she does this too. You can choose option A, option B, option C, question 1, question 2, question 3. You can read all the materials, you can have choices on the material, you can cut corners if you know it already. If you're already a happy person, cut the corners. She does all this to kind of gear towards controlling the learning environment, personal control, intrinsic control, and having, you know, kind of DC and Ryan, intrinsic motivation. Richard DC and Edward DC and Richard Ryan. She had visuals showing what they completed, what grade they got, what weight that got. It could visualize, I can visualize my learning. It's apparent to me how far I've progressed. And so when I'm not lost, the system's very clear with what I've gotten done. That helps self-directed learning by knowing I can control my path, by seeing what I've done, by visual showing my work progress and how much time. Maybe it's got 10 minutes left of readings, 30 minutes of practice. Now I can save some time on my watch for that. And then she has what's called rewirements. Rewirements are assignments that rewire your brain a little bit by trying it out. I can have a gratitude journal. I can have a gratitude letter and send it to Sanjay, thanking him for this session and Fong, thanking them so much. Thank you. So thank you. Thank everyone for showing up. I can have random acts of kindness, all sorts of ways to operationalize the course contents out there. I think this is ingenious. This is fantastic. Maybe this is why she has so many people signing up for her course. And she also has community members who come back and provide support. So if they've graduated, and other MOOC instructors do this as well, they support mentors, so they can support the community to mentor others to help them succeed. So this is a fantastic idea. I know Chuck Severance at the University of Michigan does this in his Python programming and his internet, history of the internet course. Peer graded assignments is a bonus item, number 21 in effect. If you know that the peer is gonna grade your work, you're more conscientious about doing it. You know someone's gonna look at it. You know someone's gonna have something to say. And so, yeah, having that outside voice, having the outside other. Do we have time for another quick study? Well, maybe quickly. Personalizing learning. I'll send Sanjay this study on personalizing learning that came out almost 2 years, a year and a half ago, September 2018, with Mena and others, Anissa Sari from Indonesia, and others on my team there. And we asked them about adaptive learning and about AI, and we found out AI is not happening in MOOCs. Automated kinds of tools are not there. Embedded agents and embedded counselors and automated alerts, they're not there. What's there is automated grading. So how do they personalize learning? Well, they give transcripts, they limit their hand gestures, they simplify the language. They don't talk so fast, Dr. Bob. Slow down. And so they simplify going through, no hand gestures. They add subtitling. Also, we actually have an article, it's in review. I can send Sanjay the 2-pager. In fact, Sanjay helped me design that 2-page summary of how to personalize the learning environment and address cultural sensitivity. They do it through supplemental materials, they do it through announcements, they do it through tutorials, through projects, through discussion forums and other things. Mena, we're at the end here, but before we get to the end, can you tell the people what the future is gonna hold?
I do know about the future.
I'm not paying you any money to be my fortune teller then. What's the future going to hold? Well, we see this in the last couple of months, more and more MOOCs happening. So what's going to take place is partnerships within MOOCs, having cross-institutional partnerships to offer MOOCs in different and unique ways, cross-border related MOOCs. So we can have all sorts of people out there teach a MOOC from different vantage points in different places. And there'll be unique designs, there'll be unique, in effect, unique degrees, if you will. And so this is a very, very interesting and important time. But we're going to go to question asking now in our last couple of minutes that we have here and get your questions for us and see if we, and Sanjay, you want us to stop sharing our screen, or we need to leave it up so people can get our email?
So Professor Bump, you want to say something?
Oh, yes. So once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to Professor Kurt Bong and Dr. Mena for very enlightening and very rich sharing of your research. And
Thank you, Professor Kurt Bunk and Dr. Meenaju. Um, I must first thank all the participants who stayed late because normally this is a 1 hour session. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Professor Fong, for being the co-host for this session. But the presentation was really mind-blowing, particularly the kind of research that you guys are doing, Professor Kurt Bong, Dr. Meenaju, is really which are needed by academics, teachers who are involved in the process of massive designing and development of massive open online courses. Thank you for being with us today and sharing the insights and providing the tips, particularly the 20 tips that you talked about are really going to be useful. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Mena. Thank you, Dr. Fong. We look forward to interact with you in future. Thank you, everyone. And I personally look forward to the tomorrow's session, which is the closing session, and I'll be really happy tomorrow. Thank you all.